How's everyone doing today? Happy Friday or Friday, right? Like we like to call it around here. Awesome. Is there anyone new who's never been on a training, new to Momentum? Couple of new faces. Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm glad that you're here. So today I'm actually going to show you how you could actually launch a funnel and actually predict ROI before you actually launch, right? This is super important. This is one of the biggest things that I actually help students with whenever they come to my Lean on Laurel program. One of the biggest issues that I'm finding is that a lot of you guys are launching and you don't even know what numbers you're actually looking out for. And so people will come to the calls or they'll hit me up in Voxer and they'll be like, Laurel, my CPL is really, really high. And I'm like, well, what was your projected CPL? And they're like, I don't know. Someone told me that I should stay under $5 a lead. But yet, if you do the numbers, they can pay up to $70 a lead. And so they're actually turning off funnels that would otherwise be profitable. I was sitting in Dallas just a couple of weeks ago, and the main topic over there was that, conversions aren't down. Even though it feels like conversions are down, what's actually happening is that conversions are taking longer to actually happen, right? You've heard it all before. There's every single guru talking about the trust recession. It is actually a real thing, right? Because marketers love to ruin everything, and someone has already bought an offer very similar to yours. And so now buyers are just taking a little bit longer in order to make those buying decisions because they've either bought rotten products or they've bought into a rotten coach that didn't do a really great job. And so conversions are just taking a little bit longer. So we had someone who was sitting in the room and they were running a book funnel and they were paying about $60 or $70 to acquire a book customer. And so what they were doing was they were looking at their profits after 30 days and they ended up turning off their ads. By the end of the event, they raised their hand and they were like, Onik, can we just say that after hearing you say that conversions take a little longer, we expanded our timeline and looked at data from 60 days and they were $70,000 in profit. And they had turned off their ads because they didn't account for the longer buying cycle. And so that's what's happening with a lot of people. They are just looking at their ads and they're looking at it from a 7-day cycle. I mean, I had a Lean on Laurel student just last week turn off her ads because she had a couple of bad days in a row. And I'm like, never turn anything off because honestly, it's just the game. Facebook ads are going to do this. There are some days, and for those of you guys who are running ads constantly, you guys know this. There are going to be days where you can make 0 sales. The next day you will make 10. The next day you will make 1. The next day you'll make 20. The next day you'll make 0. The next day you'll make 5. Like it does this. And so if we're making decisions based upon too short of a timeline, we're never going to make money. We're just going to continue losing money with ads. And that is the only way, in my opinion, that you actually lose money with ads is when you're turning things on and off and you're making rash decisions. My mentor calls this frequency of exposure. This happened really big in the crypto space, right? People would buy Bitcoin and then the next day they would make a decision based on where Bitcoin was. And then they would constantly pull their money out, put it back in, pull it out. Like people were losing money because they were suffering from frequency of exposure, looking at the data too frequent, right? And so they always say the best investor is the investor that died, and the second best investor is the investor that forgot that they invested. And so that is the way that I like to look at running ads, because the more hands-on I am, the worse my ads do because I want to tinker and fix things. But how do we actually know that everything's good? Well, you need to have some type of profit projection. Okay. So let's actually talk about what this is actually going to look like today. And I actually have some shortcuts that we're also going to use because technology has gotten so freaking good. Why not use technology, right? But the first thing that we have to understand is what are we actually looking at? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm just going to kind of draw out what this needs to actually look like. Okay. Now, let me ask you guys the question. Is there anyone here who is about to launch a funnel? Is there anyone here that's about to launch a funnel? Let me know in the chat if there's anyone here that's about to launch a funnel. Okay, cool. Because we're gonna do some profit projections here live, and it would be really cool if I could actually do them with you guys, right? Alp, would you like for me to do your profit projection? I know there's Mike, there's Anita. Yeah, we can do some profit projections. Yeah, we could do some profit projections today. So let's actually look at the overall thing, like what is it that we're going to do, right? So when people launch a webinar funnel, right? Let's just use a webinar funnel. We've got our landing page, we've got our play page, we've got our little button, and most webinars go to an application page. Now, it doesn't matter, right? Whether this is a webinar funnel, whether this is a low ticket offer funnel, we need to figure out what numbers do we need to hit at every single step of this funnel, right? Because if we are wanting to make sales at the end of this, right, we're going to need to figure out what is the volume that we need to push through this funnel in order to make the goals at the end, right? And so we want to know what those numbers are, because here's the reality, right? If I'm going to send 1,000 people into this funnel, we know that automatically 20% of people are going to opt in. If it's a decent funnel, right? You want at least 20%. So already, right, we've lost 800 people that are not going to move forward into this funnel, but 200 people might give us their email, right? But what we want to know is how much should we pay for those 200 people to give us that email, right? Then only 40% of people are going to hit play on this webinar. A lot of you guys just in your head went womp womp. What? Right? 40% of those 200. So that is 80 people hitting play on that webinar. You want to know how much it costs for one person to hit play on this webinar. 10% of people will make it to the end. So already we're done with 8 people watching the webinar. If we're lucky, maybe one person will fill out this application. Let's say that we're paying $2 to $3 a click. So we just spent, let's just say $2,000 to get one application. Those numbers obviously will not work, right? So that's why we need to do profit projections. The same thing with a low ticket offer funnel, right? So let's say we have, the sales page, right, with the offer. Then we've got, the thank you page. Then we've got the order bump, and then we've got the OTO, right? We want to know what numbers do we need to actually hit, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk with industry standards today, because here's the thing, most people don't realize that in order for a slow funnel, which is a self-liquidating offer funnel, in order for someone to buy a high ticket offer at the end of that, we need to push enough volume. And what happens with low ticket offer funnels is people run out of money before they have enough volume to even recoup their money. Does that make sense? And so that's why it's important, whether you're running a webinar funnel, whether you're running a low ticket offer funnel, you need to have enough cash to last, because what did we say? Conversion cycles are getting longer. So if you have a low ticket offer, can you go 60 to 100 days in the red running ads to get enough volume to get your money back? A lot of times people run out of money before that happens. And so that's why it's super important. Let me pull this down. That's why it's super important that we do these profit projections before we start running ads. The problem is that a lot of people aren't running these before they're actually running their ads, and they're actually losing money. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, cool. Let me see. Where did my mouse just all of a sudden decided to stop working. Okay, let me actually pull this up. Choo, 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 choo. Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. Yeah, my mouse just decided to stop working. That is awesome. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep teaching. Maybe it ran out of battery. Maybe it just needs a little bit of juice. So we'll actually just go into Mr. Alp. You want to tell me a little bit about your offer, and let's just go dive right in. We won't let a broken mouse stop us.
Sure. Um, I ran for the past 4 months an offer for a low ticket course.
Okay.
It's a quit smoking course, quit
Woo.
smoking with hypnosis, auto hypnosis in the course. So not a one-on-one offer. There were two order bumps in it.
Okay. So let's
And
so the first one, right? You have your landing page.
yeah,
And then what was the price of the low ticket offer?
for the most time, I ran it for 27.
Okay. So $27. And the order bump?
The first order bump, 17.
Okay.
Second order bump, 27.
Okay.
And one upsell for 97.
Okay. $97. And how much money were you putting into this funnel?
Um, I didn't spend too much, but overall, let me just see. I think I spent close to 4,000 euros. So
Okay.
it's in Europe. And I had a ROAS from 0.95. So close to break even.
That's awesome. So, and here's something that a lot of people don't talk about. In order to run one of like this, it is typical in 2025. Okay. We're not running ads like it's 2023. It is typical in 2025 to only liquidate 40% of your ad spend.
Mhm.
So, you, my friend, we're liquidating 95% of your ad spend. So,
Yeah.
congratulations. That is a huge win.
Well, now I need to say, well, it might have been actually better than this because I had three people reaching out to me that I think saw the ad, according to what they say, and booked me for 3K. So in the end, I made also 9K sales, which
Awesome.
might have been offline conversions. But I
100%.
highly, yeah, I think so because they were saying, oh, I saw your Instagram stuff. And I say, I never posted anything on Instagram. So it was my ads that they probably saw and then later visited my website.
100%. And, even like with Facebook attribution, even if you're using things like Hyros or any of those tracking, it is
Right.
not going to account for a lot of the things that happen, right? Like when people reach out to you in Messenger and buy, whenever people come to a live event, right? Like, whenever I was in
Right.
Dallas 2 weeks ago, I was telling everyone, I was like, look, I'm standing here, about 4 million in sales, under $150,000, yet my ads manager says I only get 0.52 return on ad spend. So why does the Facebook ads manager tell me that I suck at running ads when clearly I'm standing up here, right? And I was like, guys, I am standing on this stage right now because I ran an ad that
Hmm.
Onyx Singal saw.
Right.
Facebook's not
Wow.
going to
Wow.
count
Yeah.
this me standing on this stage right now as part of my return on ad spend, but it 100% is. I had a
Right.
guy tell me one time a couple of weeks ago, I had made a post about like my return on ad spend, and he told me that I couldn't account my return on ad spend on my organic traffic. And I was like, well,
Mm,
then, my friend, you don't know how marketing works because I would not have my organic traffic if I wasn't running ads.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. So are you still running this funnel?
No, I'm guilty of stopping. When I just heard you, I said, "Oh, damn!" Because I wanted to try a different price point. I tweaked it up to
So
47.
let me ask you this. You wanted to
Right.
try a new price point. What constraint were you trying to solve with that?
I wanted to get profitable.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
uh, let's see. How many of you guys would spend 4 grand to make $9,000 in sales every single day of the week?
well, this was over 3 months, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should count them or not. This is part of the deal,
And
like
you
they
know,
said,
but
maybe
you
I
know
was
what?
just lucky.
But you know what? Once you run my ads ecosystem, this number is going to get better and better, and this number is going to get better and better, right? Because my ecosystem is built around.
I just started some messenger ads. Didn't work that well, so I stopped it to tweak the to a value bomb strategy.
Mhm.
So I was doing the reels more educational, but I thought, what the heck? I just wanted quick conversations, and it was just 3 days.
Yeah.
But
It's not
today,
long. Yeah, it's not long
nah,
enough. Like
no,
honestly, like messenger conversations, like the way that I built it is really for people who are more at the end of the funnel. For some people, they will get a quick win in the very beginning, depending on the niche. But really, it's really to solve a problem at the end of the funnel where
okay,
people are seeing your content over long periods of time and you still haven't intercepted a conversation with them. That's really what it's built for. Um,
right.
and so, but some of my students run them top of funnel and they do really, really well with them top of funnel. And that has to do with how well their offers and indirect offers, like their value bombs, are put together, and how well people are in ingesting all of their content too.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's always like you guys know this. Someone might talk to someone because they've got blue eyes, right? Like there could be two marketers that have the exact same offer. They say exactly
Totally.
the same stuff, but one's gonna get the sale because they got blue eyes, or one's wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. You never know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Did that help?
Absolutely. Short question. I wasn't sure. Should I continue this funnel, or I thought, why not go to VS?
Okay,
We
you're about to do something that most marketers, every single fucking marketer does. They stop doing what's fucking working. Why do we do this to ourselves? Like, why? Right?
Yeah,
Why do we like we literally just showed you how profitable you are, but wait, Laurel, I want to ask you about doing something else.
right.
It's okay. We all have this problem. My mentor like laughs at me all of the time, and so we're all fucking guilty of it. I've got a really great friend. You guys all some know him. Some of you guys love him. Some of you guys really fucking hate him. But I have this conversation with him all the day, all the time. I'm like, why are you stopping to do what's like you're literally killing the thing that works? And now he's going back to doing the thing that worked for him 5 years ago after this long journey that I told him not to take. But you can't really talk. What do I know? He makes over 30 million and I only make, 7 figures a year, and he makes way more money than me, but but that's why we all
Well,
need we all need help. We all need a little help, right?
right. Thank you.
So let's go over the numbers, the 5 numbers that we all need to make sure that we are keeping track of. Okay. Section 2, 5 numbers. Okay, these are the things that we need to keep an eye on once we run this ad, right? Because these are the numbers that are going to tell the story that we actually want to hear. Okay, so write these down. I'm going to give you guys the thing so you guys don't have to write it down. But number one, ad spend, right? We want to know, like, how much can we actually spend? Now, yesterday I had someone in my messenger and he's like, well, I've got $15,000 in savings. I'm like, that's not your ad budget. Please tell me that that's not your ad budget. I was like, your ad budget needs to be what are you okay with spending and pretty much lighting it on fire to test a funnel, because you may not see a freaking penny. So your ad spend is not what you have in your savings, right? I never recommend testing with a credit card. I mean, obviously you have to use a credit card, but if you are in a position to where you're using your family's money in order to run ads, don't do it. Don't run ads on credit. I know a lot of people are like, there's this thing where if you run it with your credit card and then you can pay back what you make. It ain't gonna in most times it will not happen that way. And so I do not recommend that. Your cost per click, we want to be able to know how much should we be paying per click. Obviously, our conversion rate, not only on the front end, but we also want to look at what is our opt-in, what is our conversion rate once people opt in, what are the back end sales, because guys, these two numbers right here, if you're running a low ticket offer funnel, average order value, like with all of this upsells and the order bumps, like what is your average order value? And this one is the big one, LTV, or back end monetization. We want to make sure that if we are running a low ticket offer, we want to make sure that we have a strong back end. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize. Like, they'll go through a course like Stu McLaren's, membership launch, and the membership is the only thing that they have available. It is going to be super hard for you to be able to make money on a membership if there is no back end. Because honestly, let's say you're selling a $37 membership, a $37 a month membership. You're probably going to pay over $100 to acquire that customer, and then you have to deal with churn. And so we have to make sure that we have enough money through our back end monetization in order to actually make sure that that funnel is profitable. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So let's actually, instead of doing manual stuff, let's have some fun. Let's see, I think it was, let's see, was Anita. I think she said that she's about to run a funnel. Mr. Mike also. Anita, tell me about your offer.
Hey, yeah, so I've got quite a lot to learn, but my offer,
That's okay.
I'm a certified PCOS nutritionist. I help women lose weight and get healthy with PCOS, and yeah, I have a lot to learn, you'll see.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it over a year and a half. I started recently specializing in PCOS because most of my clients have had it. And I just created a funnel for my coaching offer and feels like I'm kind of reading Chinese.
No, you know what? I'm gonna help you not read Chinese, okay?
Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna show you guys the shortcut. I was gonna show you guys how to do this manually, and I'm like, fuck it, it's Friday. Let's have some fun, right? I recommend everyone get the paid version of Chat GPT, okay? Because here's the deal, you're gonna need it, okay? This right here is what I call my second brain. Her name is Carol. She is my assistant, right? And so Carol tells me everything that I want to know. As a matter of fact, look, I've got all of my clients right here in this nice little chat because she helps me with all of my clients as my second brain. But what we're actually going to do today is I'm actually going to show you guys how to use ChatGPT in order to get it to spit out any profit projection that you're going to need. So, Miss Anita, tell me so I'm going to tell it I have a new student. Her name is Anita, and she has an offer to sell to women who have PCOS. You have a low ticket offer funnel, right? A slow funnel?
Uh, I do not. No, I have just a
Okay.
DSL that leads them to like
Oh,
a
perfect.
coaching call with me, but then I have like a downsell offer when they get on the call, which is a course.
Perfect. Okay, she is running a VSL funnel that leads to a booked. Oops, there we go. That leads to a booked call. How much is your offer?
I have three, 6,500 for the year, 3,800 for 6 months, or like 997 for the course.
Go a little bit slower. Offers are
Sure.
how much? 90.
Yeah, so 997 for the digital course. That's for folks who maybe don't want to commit to the higher one.
Okay.
And then the main program is 6,500 for the year, and that's where we work together for like a whole year. And then it's 3,800 for 6 months.
Okay, cool. So I'm just like typing in, telling it what, okay. What's your ad spend?
It's about anywhere from like $100 a day, and then I did what you said not to do, and I was like, oh no, I panicked, and so I brought it down to $50 a day.
Let's just say 3K a month, right?
Okay.
Have you started running it yet or no?
Yes, I just started running it, and
What's your cost? What's your cost per click right now?
cost per click, super cheap actually. It's about like 483 since last time I checked, about like
Or
$5.
so $4.80. So is that per click or lead?
That's per lead, so I'm running messenger
Okay.
ads right now.
Okay. So your cost per so what's the flow? So you're running Messenger to the VSL?
Yeah, so we had initially tried running it directly to the VSL when I started, and that was like $800 of a call. So,
Yeah, 100%. Like
yeah.
that's super, super expensive. So her cost per messenger conversation is $5. And is everyone that you have a messenger conversation with actually watching the VSL?
No, a lot of the ladies ghost me, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just say that 80, let's just actually say 40%, because 40% is typically what you're gonna get
Okay.
out of like a reaction. And let's say that 40% of people who message her will watch her VSL. I need your help on creating a profit projection and what her metrics need to be in order to be profitable.
And on the VSL, the stat we have is that 25% of ladies that actually visit the website will actually watch it.
And what's the stat?
25%. Pretty much the stats you gave earlier on the first funnel were darn accurate.
Yeah, it's industry standard.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh yeah, and then you can like I usually do this through voice text, but since we're doing this Zoom, I figured,
Screenshotting.
Oh yeah. Let's see. So this is what you would actually need, but I don't think 25% of the VSL watchers are going to book a call.
No, definitely not.
I would say probably 8 to 10%.
Okay.
Let's go by 8 to 10% of people.
That's what it's been so far.
Yeah. But see how I'm just like literally telling it like, and I'm just like, and if you don't know what industry standards are, it will like pretty much.
Oh, neat. Okay.
But see, it tells. So, and what I like about doing it this, right? Um, 600 conversations a month, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I have just about all those. I have a setter right now.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Then your setter is probably would be happy with this. Yeah. And so David just asked a really great question, right? Is this an industry standard exercise or does your ChatGPT know from memory working with you? It has a pretty good knowledge of outside, especially if you turn on the deep research tab at the bottom. But for the most part, yeah, like it knows a lot of shit because I use like ChatGPT so much. But it's pretty good at being able to predict that stuff. So at least now Miss Anita knows like here's her metrics that she needs to hit whenever it comes to running ads.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Does this make sense to everyone? Like I was gonna be mean and make you guys do the manual numbers, but then I was like, hell, it's Friday. Oh. Does anyone else want to run their numbers? Yeah, David.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm stoked. Only because I have like a little bit different of what we've seen already, so it'd be super helpful for me.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And so by the way, like if you're not using Claude, so I use both, just so you guys know. And it's funny, whenever I was doing this exercise for you guys, let's see. I actually had it do this for you guys. Like I plugged in the what I was doing and I said, "Can you turn this into a calculator?" So I'm going to give you guys this that y'all can play with.
awesome.
Isn't that freaking cool though? Like you can literally like, and it'll like, so I did one for a webinar funnel and a slow funnel, but all I did was take the stuff from here and I said, hey, how would I turn this into a GPT? And it actually did.
Yeah, I made a web-based app for you too. That's sick.
Yeah. And then it gave me an embed that I can like use like for the website and stuff too. So it's
Amazing.
pretty freaking cool.
So I'm like staying in tier one of your program essentially, where I'm just talking to my customers. I'm not doing a VSL.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm looking at the power offer or the power funnel.
Mhm.
Ultimately, my offer is $25,000 for contractors for me to take
What,
over.
slow down. What is it?
Okay, sorry.
Okay. I have another.
$25,000 for home improvement contractors so that I take over their
25,000?
marketing. Yeah.
Okay. And he's using an add to application funnel. Okay.
Yep. What next do you need to know? I've been running power content for
So
like a
this
year.
is just so this is just for this funnel, right? So
Okay.
so what we're doing today is not ecosystem stuff. This is
Hmm.
just funnel stuff.
Right. And so I'm going to launch this funnel based on what I learned from this exercise, like
Okay,
how much to
you're gonna
spend and
launch the
stuff.
power funnel.
Correct.
Okay. He's using an add to application funnel. Based upon your past data, what are your numbers for for converting clients?
Um, they're not great,
That's okay.
to be fair. So let's say like 1 in 10 to be really conservative.
What's your ad spend?
And you're saying like, what can I spend in a month? Or
Yeah,
let's
what's
say,
your ad budget?
let's say 3 grand. And that's specifically for the offer funnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's still fine.
So I'm just literally just telling it. So
Same
I have
deal.
another client. He's got an offer 25,000. He's using an add to application funnel, past data. He has a 10% closing rate. He can spend $3,000 in ads. Can you run a profit projection telling us what his cost per click and all of his funnel metrics need to be in order to have at least a 2x return?
Right. So I can pay like 300 bucks for a call ultimately is what it's telling me, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because 10 booked calls, right? And so you can spend up to $300 per booked call, which is pretty easy to do.
yeah, yeah,
Because
makes sense.
usually the power funnel, we pay $150 or less.
That's the qualifying factor. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool.
But yeah, you see how it's just Because and the numbers were really easy because you have a $25,000 offer. It made it a lot easier because your offer is so like just one sale would get you.
Cover everything. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yep. Yeah, that's why like most people will not be able to have that high of a cost per click of $30.
Right, sure. And that's, I mean, that's helps me to kind of come to terms with it because my numbers are high for everything that I run, but it's because I'm trying to sell something expensive, so it makes sense.
Yeah. And Liz just actually made a good point. Would you suggest engaging the field, then feeding the data? Absolutely. As you're getting more ad data, this is where we need to update it. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a client with Tina and Dan, and as Dan is feeding me data, I'm literally updating the profit projections on that client's numbers here. Like in real time, like every single day. What last week we were trying to fill a challenge. Every single day I was like, Dan, what are the numbers today? What are the numbers today? And literally every single day I was like putting it in, because we were really trying to figure out like, okay, where do we need to be? And so that's just something that, and but you guys can see how I'm using it as a second brain. You have to know what to type into this thing for it to tell you. Like if like David just went in here and just, I mean, it would probably get him pretty close, but if David was just like, hey, I've got a $25,000 offer, I need to be profitable, like I need to tell it exactly like what data, do I need to see. So you just have to like learn how to work with it. How many of you guys are running ads right now and you've never done a profit projection? Let's see. I'm just reading the yeah, so Alp just asked a really great question. If you want to start a VSL funnel and don't have any numbers for cost per click, what are the actual standards? You would just work your way backwards, like how I was doing it here. Industry standards are going to be different. So if you're looking at the weight loss space, your cost per click is going to be a lot cheaper. You're probably going to get like $2. But if you are in like your space, like you're probably going to get a little bit $3 or $4. The higher and tighter the niche, the higher the cost per click. Like if you're targeting someone like chiropractors, you're going to pay $10, $11 a click. If you're fishing in the right pond, it all met the size of the audience is going to determine the cost per click. Ginger's like, thanks for doing this on AI. I wouldn't want to do it any other way. This is crazy helpful. Awesome. Yeah, I would much rather you guys just use the shortcuts, but you have to understand the principle of where it's coming from before you're even to use a tool like this. And that's the problem is most people, when they do this, they don't understand the principle that it comes from. And that's why like they always say garbage in, garbage out of, Chat GPT. The more data that you could actually feed this. Like whenever I have a client, like I used to be like, don't ever fucking send me like a spreadsheet. Like I hate spreadsheets. Miss Carol right here. I'll just download. I'll be like, Carol, I've got a spreadsheet. And then I'll ask it questions and she'll feed me back all of the data that I need to know. So now when my clients send me a spreadsheet, I'm like, can you, because I used to, Tina and Dan are laughing because they've experienced this. I'm like, don't send me a spreadsheet. Draw me a picture. Thank you. Because I'm a very visual person. Um, but I can like put a spreadsheet into Claude and be like, can you turn this into pie charts for me? And it'll do it. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was working on a workshop because you guys know I'm working on condensing my content, and it literally like spit out the actual PowerPoint that I should use. And I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. So that's why I pay the $20 for both ChatGPT and Claude. And then I use them simultaneously because Claude is much better at copywriting. If you're starting from scratch, and GPT is better for like, short-term stuff like that, but they both work fantastic together. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions before we break? Super helpful? Help.
Yes, so I just am new to your system in order to understand it properly. By boosted power content and conversion funnels that you use, you're basically um, creating this what you're calling a goodwill, even though it's not organically grown by lots of content. It's rather boosted content and staying on top of the potential target group's mind so that conversions happen better and cheaper. Is
Yep.
this more or less what your ecosystem is all about,
Yeah.
right?
So the way that my ecosystem works, right? We'll actually go back here. I'll actually show you this. Let's see. Mm-mm-mm. So if we go back to the little drawing. That's a great question, by the way. So if we go back to this drawing, right? Let me double tap, let me erase this, right? So as I was saying, right, my ecosystem is built around this funnel right here, right? And so anytime you're going to have a funnel, you're going to have black holes, right? There's going to be people who hit the landing page, but they don't opt in. There's going to be people who will buy the $27 offer, but they don't buy the order bumps. There's going to be people who buy the order bumps, but they don't buy the $97 offer. And then there's going to be the people here who buy everything in the funnel, but they still haven't bought, like what's at the end of the funnel, right? And so here's how I built the ecosystem. Okay. So because like think about this, right? You're sending cold traffic to this funnel. And there's 97 to 98% of people who aren't doing a damn thing, right? They're hitting this and they're just bouncing off. And so what my ecosystem does is it basically plugs the black hole. So if we have power content here, right? Our goodwill videos, people who are hitting this landing page but not opting in, let's capitalize on all this traffic we already paid Facebook for. Let's give them some nurture time, right? Because, after billions of data points from Google's determined that it takes 7 hours of consuming content, 11 touch points across 4 different platforms in order for someone to make a decision, a buying decision. And this is not just for high ticket. This is for low ticket too. And so what we're about to do is going to ensure that we get all of the touch points that we need, right? So this is campaign number 1 in my ecosystem, which is the power content. So we're using it to fill that black hole, right? We're going to capitalize on the 97 to 98%. But what we could also do is let's capture those 97 to 98% from cold traffic too, right? Because we're using high dollar conversion ads to get people to this funnel. Let's use cheap video view campaign ads to get that 97 to 98% into watching these videos. So power content is actually not just for retargeting the people who aren't hitting our funnel. We could also use it to grab the 97 to 98% of people who aren't ready to buy, but are our ideal clients, right? So whether someone clicks on this landing page or watches 25% here, we're going to put them on the conveyor belt, okay? So what the conveyor belt is going to do is it's going to ensure that we're getting these 7 hours of consuming content across 11 different touch points across 4 different platforms. And so on this conveyor belt, right, we're going to put the people who've watched 25% of these videos or they've clicked, right? So they're here. They're not ready to buy, right? And so our goal is to get them from not ready to buy into ready to buy, right? And so once we have someone on the conveyor belt, right, they're sad, they're not ready to buy, they're just kind of going along. What we're going to do here is we're going to plug the holes and we're going to show them more video content. We're going to feed them maybe some reels to get some extra FaceTime, get some conversations. We're going to show them maybe a little podcast episode, right? Get them, because remember, we're trying to get them to consume 7 hours of content, right? Now, here's the thing. This content right here is probably going to be from a more actionable lens, right? Problem solving. They're the easiest types of content to do, help people solve problems. But here's the thing, people consume information in a couple of different ways, not just actionable. Some people like to hear stories of success. Some people like to see the numbers broken down, like what I did for you guys today, right? Some people want to know the psychological triggers from their audience, right? And so this content is not only going to be actionable, we're also going to throw in case studies, testimonials, data driven numbers, psychological triggers, psychological content. And so by the time that people are moving along the conveyor belt, right? There's always something that happens. They start asking themselves, they're almost ready to buy, and then they get stuck right here because they're asking themselves one question. Why will this time be different? I have already invested in a coach. I've already bought a product to help me quit smoking. Why will this time be different? I always tell my students that the fastest path to cash is through conversations. And so right here is where I'm going to put 2 campaigns. Okay. One is called the fast funnel. That is through messenger conversations. They are the lowest friction type of having a conversation, right? They click on the ad, boom, I can have an instant conversation with them. So that's campaign number 4, the fast funnel. That's the way that I like to sell, right? Every single person who is in this program and every single person who's in my Lean on Laurel program, I sold them right then in Messenger because they had been watching my content, whether it was in the $7 program, whether it was on YouTube, whether it was on a Facebook ad, they got their 7 hours of content, right? But then there's another way that we can have conversations, right? That is through a phone call. And so I have redesigned my Hot 7. I'm calling it the green light sequence now because most people have more than 7 pieces of content. They're like, can we have more? So the Hot 7 name doesn't serve the sequence anymore. So I'm calling it the green light sequence in my new book, Kiss My ROAS. And the green light sequence is built to get people over that last hump. And so it's going to be content that's going to cover objections, or adoption decisions, right? Because people either have an objection or they still haven't adopted our mechanism as the way to move forward. And so the green light sequence is going to move them over to a Zoom call, or if you are selling a product and not getting people over the phone, it's going to take them back to the final action of the funnel. In your case, it could be that high ticket offer. In some people's case, it might be their $97 offer. And in my case, it's my $7 a month offer. But these are the last 2 campaigns that are going to handle any objections or adoption that is actually on that's going to decide whether or not they're going to move forward. Was that helpful, Alp? I know this is kind of a speed through version of it, but that is why I built my ecosystem around the funnel to move people
Absolutely.
over.
Thank you. Great.
Yeah. Kiss My ROAS is going to be available here pretty soon. I'm still working on the diagrams for it. Yeah, so Jean-Claude says, I have a question. What if we're starting out and don't have testimonials just yet? I intend on running an ad to give a free service in return for a testimonial. Is that the answer, or is it something else? If you don't have, right, you still have different types of content to use, right? Aspirational content doesn't have to be necessarily a testimonial. I could tell a story of my own success with something, and it could be a self-testimonial or a case study. And you could also run numbers, or you can do a podcast episode. One of my favorite ways to get authority is have someone interview you about your mechanism. Like my highest performing ad on YouTube is an interview where Vince Reed is interviewing me about my ecosystem. Yep. So Liz says, do you set up different audience for the green light or just your warm stack? It depends on how much traffic you have. right? The more traffic that you have at the bottom of the funnel, I would set it up just for bottom of the funnel. But if you're starting out, all warm traffic is fine. I don't honestly worry too much about it. Like all of my warm campaigns go to all of my warm traffic. Because even like, because people are like, well, Laurel, why would you not exclude the people who've already bought your $7 program? Well, it's because it nurtures them right into Lean on Laurel. Because we still want to nurture our current buyers. And they give me great social proof on my ads. Like people who go through my $7 program, they'll be like, hey, I'm in this program. They'll see someone say something negative and they'll be like, no, as a matter of fact, I'm in this program. It's not a scam and it's actually pretty cool. Mike says, don't get stuck in perfectionism. Oh, I'm not, trust me. Like the book is, I'm just working on my diagrams because you guys know Nick and I released our 3 ROAS. And so that kind of took front and center. So writing 2 books in a year is not an easy task. Let's see. Alp says, so you retarget your ads on your warm custom audience or on lookalike. Lookalikes are not warm audiences, Alp. They're cold. Yeah, using your own experience makes a huge difference. Like I think Alex Harmozy talks about this a lot, like reframing like pretty much all of your content instead of how to, here's how I ... It's a great reframe because then it's no one can refute what you're doing. No one can refute your data. But anyone can pretend to be an expert and just do how-to videos all day long. Awesome. You guys feeling good? Can everyone go and do their own profit projection now? Awesome. You guys enjoying momentum? We're about to wait till you guys see what I've got in store for the summer. It's going to be fun. Like my vision for momentum, and of course lean on Laurel. Lean on Laurel. Like momentum is literally lean on Laurel without the Voxer access, right? Because I know Tina and Dan are always like, I'm like, y'all are in momentum. You're just in a higher tier of it, right? But yeah, like I want to build momentum out to be like my core tribe of people. And so like we're gonna have a lot of fun. Like this is only the beginning of momentum, guys. And if you guys know, Lean on Laurel started out at a $200 a month price point. So there's people in Lean on Laurel that are still at the $200 price point because I don't believe in raising the price. So like if that's not a lesson, because it always as things fill up, we raise prices and stuff, but I never raise it on current students. So you get once you're in at the $200 a month price, you're in and grandfathered in. So yeah, what a perfect day to start your Friday. Me too. I always love starting my day drinking coffee with you guys. But anyway, you guys have an amazing rest of your day. If there aren't any more questions, I'll give you 5 minutes back of your time. How about that? Awesome. Yeah. I'm an early bird Alp, so my time usually works out for you guys over across the pond. And we're working on I don't know if you guys saw the Success Finder, we released the app version. So now you could actually go on your phone. Like it's really cool. So for those of you guys who don't know, we own Success Finder along with my business partners Nick and Brandon. So that is our platform. So and one of the other things that I'm having them change is I don't like how the accountability club fucks up all of the conversations like if someone responds. So we're working on making it to where it's kind of like Slack so that when someone so that it'll be conversation threads and so they'll be nice and organized and everything. So it'll be much easier to have conversations. Also, you guys, you will have the audio of our 3 ROAS here maybe today, tomorrow. So inside that, Tina, don't worry, I'm gonna hook you up with it. I know you want it. Tina's like, I want that so bad. I'm gonna hook you up. It's gonna be in the Success Finder platform, and you'll have access to it, Tina. Everyone will have access. That's on the call. We'll have access to it. So lots of cool stuff. Nick's about to add a section to Momentum as well. So like I said, we're doing some really cool things that you guys are gonna get access to, not only me, but also to Nick too. So got a lot of
Laurel,
stuff. Yeah.
Just so you know, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I couldn't get in. It's all locked for me still
You
because
won't
I
need
know it's not
access
in
to you won't need
momentum.
access to momentum. You'll just need access to Laurel's vault.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Because I tried to get in, I tried to sneak in the back way as well, but it's too
Yeah,
well locked
so
up for
yeah,
me.
if you're in LOL, just as long as you're in Laurel's vault, you will be good. All of the stuff that I'm
So
talking about will be within Laurel's vault. So you won't need
I'm not
access.
missing out on anything.
You're not missing out on anything.
Just checking.
Yep. 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 Absolutely. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys later.